Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian, and this is going to be a little bit of a different video than what you're probably used to for a camping channel. But I've been going through all my camera gear and I'm trying to minimize and take things out of my bag and just kind of lessen the load. And I thought this would be a really good time to answer a few of the questions over what do I use when I go on these camping trips and make a video for this YouTube channel. So today I'm going to try to go over everything that I've used, what I used to use, and why I switched things out. Now to get started, let me tell you that I uploaded my very first camping video on August 4th of 2022. So just over a year ago, I posted my first video. Not for regular YouTube, but for my camping stuff. I'm going to show you what I used on the first 2 or 3 videos that I ever uploaded. And I think you might be surprised because anyone can get into YouTube. You don't need all this fancy equipment, which I don't really have, but you don't need a whole lot to start a YouTube channel. And that's one of the questions that I get asked the most is what all do you have to go buy to start a YouTube channel? If you have a phone, you can make a YouTube video easily. And half the time, those images are gonna turn out better than if you're using a real expensive camera with a lot of settings and functions on it that you don't get right. The phone does everything for you. So you don't need a lot of stuff, and just over the year, I guess, I've kind of been able to figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So I'm just going to walk you through that right now and show you what I use when I go on a camping trip. The very first piece of equipment that I used, and the only piece of equipment that I used on my very first camping video, was this guy right here. That is it. This is the GoPro Hero 7. And again, it's all that I use. I didn't even use my phone on that video, and it turned out pretty good, I think. Obviously, there was some editing issues and things that I didn't know on YouTube and how to make a better video. But this was all that I used for almost the first 3 videos, I believe, is this little GoPro Hero 7. And I still use this thing today. It's a great GoPro. Obviously, they have newer models after this, and I use one of the newer models, but I still do use this thing, especially if I'm going to do underwater shots. I use this camera just in case something goes wrong underwater. I'm not gonna damage my newer GoPro, but this thing is built like a tank, and again, I still use it today. The battery life on these GoPros are horrible, so if you are gonna use a GoPro, I highly recommend just to get a couple of extra batteries because you will burn through batteries like no other. And the main problem I have with GoPros here in Texas during the summer is that they overheat after about 5 or 6 minutes, and I just cannot keep them running in the summer. That's the main fault that I have with GoPros is just keeping them running when it's so hot, because these cameras are designed to be moving. They're an action camera, and so when they're moving, they cool themselves off. And when they're on a tripod, stationary, filming me not catching any fish, they overheat. So I've had a lot of issues where this thing just cut off and I didn't even realize it until I went back to edit and I lost half of my footage. So keep an eye on it if you're going to use a GoPro. So after this, after the GoPro last year, I upgraded to a Sony ZV-1, basically kind of like a little point and shoot camera. It still is a really good camera, but you can see I've kind of had to modify it. So I had to buy a USB battery charging bank holder because the battery life on this Sony is absolutely terrible. I might get 20 minutes off of a full charge filming in 4K. And I'll talk about what I film in here in just a little bit, but this is a 4K camera. The image quality is great. It is not that wide of a camera, so if I'm trying to film in my truck or a whole picnic table or whatever, the standard lens that comes on this thing is just not really that wide. So I bought this Ulanzi, I believe, wide angle lens adapter. And this thing is just stuck on with tape, or like a 3M double-sided tape, and you just stick it to this camera. It widens open the field of view, so it gives a little bit better angle. But when it gets hot outside here in Texas again, I've had to replace the tape on this twice because I've been looking at this camera talking to you folks, and I can see this lens go and it falls off. There's no really other way to attach a wide angle lens to the ZV-1. I think Sony came out with another ZV E1 or some other model after this that actually does have interchangeable lenses. But for the price of that, I'm going to show you what I think you can get that's a much better option. But this Sony ZV-1 has done very well. Now, I did have to put the battery bank holder on it, and I bought a little dummy battery to use because it lasts much, much longer than the standard Sony ZV-1 battery that comes with it. So when this is on my tripod, this is the setup that it looks like with the battery holder and the extra wide angle lens on this thing. But again, this has been a good camera, and I do have a small rig, that's the brand, small rig cage going over this camera, which just gives it a little few more mounting options so I can mount my lights or my microphone and then to my tripod. So that's what that little metal case is around it. But overall, this is, you know, it was a really good camera. Just the battery life on it was horrible, and I didn't like having to stick on a lens and constantly worry about it falling off during the middle of a shot. So I've kind of moved on to a different camera. But these were the two cameras that I used almost literally up until about 4 months ago. This got me through YouTube just fine. Now, let me move on. I'm going to go through my bag actually in no specific order. I'm just going to show you folks what is in my bag and what I currently use now. Well, actually before that, let me talk about tripods. Tripods are critical, and I always take 2 tripods with me, and you can spend $1,000 on a tripod, and that just blows my mind. And I never would spend that much money. But I think for the best bang for your buck, this Ulanzi tripod is the absolute best tripod. I think it was like 60 or 65 bucks. And I don't like the tripods that you have to twist to open the legs up. To me, they just take forever. I like these tripods that have the levers that open and close the legs. To me, they're just so much easier than those twist-on tripods, or the twist-leg tripods. And this is just a man-billy ball head with a quick-release plate that I can put my GoPro or my current camera on, and it just obviously moves around everywhere. But it is so small when you close it up, and it weighs nothing. But this has been my favorite tripod, and I also do carry this one with me, and this is kind of a no-name NRL. I'll put the link in the description. I paid for it, but it's a carbon fiber tripod. And this is good. I bring 2 tripods with me so I can do time lapses while I'm out recording something else, but it's always been a good idea for me to bring 2 tripods. And this one can extend, and I have the extension on it right now. Basically, nothing to that. But these are the 2 tripods that I bring with me, and they've been pretty sturdy. They're not going to hold up a 50-pound cinema camera, but they work for me, and they don't take up a whole lot of space. So that's that for my tripods. And let's just jump into the camera gear that I'm currently using. And this is the bag that I use. I've gone through so many camera bags and duffel bags and range ammo bags. And this bag has been the best for me. And what is it? I don't even remember. A GoPro Flipside Trek BP 350 AW. So alphabet soup for this bag. But this has been my favorite camera bag that I've ever had. And little known fact that probably none of y'all know is before YouTube, I was a very serious hobbyist, I guess, for still photography. So I have a ton of DSLRs, a lot of money put into very nice glass for the Nikon system because, in my opinion, Nikon is the best still photography type of camera. This whole YouTube thing with the video was brand new to me, so a lot of my cameras don't really work. My good cameras don't work for videography. So I've had a lot of camera bags, I guess is what I'm trying to get to say. And this has been my most favorite bag. But as far as what I currently use now to make these silly little videos, we open this up. And this is blasphemy because like I just said, I've been a Nikon shooter, still photography all my life. But Canon is the best, in my opinion, DSLR or mirrorless camera for videography. So I have been using a Canon EOS R now to replace that Sony ZV-1 camera because of the interchangeable lenses, and Canon makes a great camera. I'm just not quite used to it, and I'm not in their ecosystem with all of the Nikon glass that I use. But I picked up an EOS R, and I got the 24 to 105 kit lens basically, and the 16 millimeter f1.8 lens. So this is my wide lens. If I'm going to be up close using this camera or inside my truck sometimes, I'll use this 16 millimeter f1.8. And I think this was like 270 bucks, which is fantastic for an f1.8 lens, full frame design. So if you're in the Canon world, I really do. This has been a really nice lens for me. And the low light capabilities of this lens paired to the mirrorless body, you can shoot ISO up to 10,000 and and have a decent image. And if you don't know what that means, just know that you can use this camera and that lens almost in pitch dark and still get a good image. But in terms of my big, new, fancy camera, it's the EOS R. To pair the EOS R, or my mirrorless camera, most of my shots, to be honest with you, come from another GoPro. And this is the GoPro Hero 11. Okay, this is what I use most of the time, especially hand holding, because the vibration reduction on these GoPros are just out of this world, 10 times better than a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. But GoPro Hero 11, and I do have the media mod wrapped around it. That's what this little fuzzy thing is up here. This is the microphone. So if you're going to start a YouTube channel, I honestly think you can get away with a GoPro Hero 11 and a media mod. And I say the media mod because this allows you to connect an external microphone and an external USB-C charging device from the back. Without this media mod, you have to use the internal GoPro battery, and you cannot connect a boom mic, a wireless mic. You can't do anything. So you have to spend the money, which I think these media mods are around $100, which is ridiculous, but GoPro, they make you do it. But this little camera is absolutely fantastic. It's got a super wide view if you want it. It kind of looks distorted, but you can literally get everything in the frame on the super wide view. This does star trails. It does easy time lapses that does all of the exposure smoothing, everything for you on this camera. This thing's been great, but it still has the same problems that I have with the GoPro Hero 7, is that this thing overheats so easily here in the summer in Texas. There is a couple of different settings that you can change on the GoPro that kind of degrade the video quality, that don't make this camera get quite as hot, but it still overheats on me all the time. If it's over 90 degrees, this thing is constantly overheating, especially in 4K. Now, that's a segue into what I shoot in terms of my video quality. Everything that I upload on YouTube is shot in 1080. Yeah. 4K is massive files. They take forever to render. They take forever to post-process. I don't have an $8,000 home computer that I use. I use an iPad to edit all of my videos. And it does it okay if I do 4K, but 1080, I'd be hard-pressed to see if you guys could notice my 1080 videos versus a 4K video, because I did upload about 2 4K videos just to see if the algorithm changed, and of course it didn't. And I can't tell a difference in the video quality between shooting in 1080 and 4K, especially for YouTube, because YouTube does their own compression when it goes up to the YouTube cloud, and they do whatever they do to it. But 1080 for me has been absolutely perfect, and it's just, you don't take up as much memory on your SD cards or your micro SD cards for the case of the GoPro Hero 11, and it's just easier to edit and to store all of your video files. It doesn't take up 4 times as much storage. So I shoot in 1080. I'm sure that, I mean, that can be a debate to have for the next 20 videos if I should be shooting in 4K, but I don't. 1080 with the GoPro Hero 11. So again, if you're just getting started into YouTube and you don't want to go spend the money on all these mirrorless cameras or fancy cameras, a GoPro, especially the new ones, work absolutely great. In terms of audio, I don't know if you can see, and this is probably going to be loud, but I'm using a DJI wireless microphone lav system, and these things are fantastic. A lot of people use the Rode Go 2 wireless mic. I like this DJI, because it comes in this case. You can charge this case, and it charges up your transmitter that's on my camera right now and your wireless little transmitter right here. It charges it up, so every time you go to pull it out, you've got a full wireless mic system. And this particular kit comes with a second wireless transmitter, so if my wife's with me, I can put this on her, and we'll get 2 audio sources from her and from me. The only issue I've had with this system is that I have to be careful because it picks up a lot of breathing, especially if I wear it right here. I haven't found a good place to put it on my body. I've actually tried to put it on the brim of my hat. That worked okay because it didn't catch as much of my breath during videos and when I'm not talking. But it picks up everything, which is good. But I just have to be mindful of, if I'm looking straight down, and I'm breathing, it's just kind of annoying, especially for you folks to watch. But audio, DJI wireless mic system has been fantastic. And I also do sometimes use a Rode or Rode Wireless Mic Pro Plus on my camera if I don't feel like wearing this. I don't bring that out a lot, but I'll show it to you here. It's in the other part of my bag. But that's basically it for the innards and the main cameras that I currently use. So we can flip this thing over, and in here, I just keep some GoPro mounts, a little hat clip GoPro mount, some spare GoPro mounts, because I do use my GoPro quite a bit. And that's basically it for inside this front compartment. And in this main little top lid right here is where my Rode big microphone is. This has really good audio and it's fantastic, but I just feel like it looks silly. Honestly, I know that I shouldn't be saying that, but when I'm out camping and I'm around people, having this on top of my camera, it's just a lot for people to see. And they kind of get taken back when they see some dude with a camera and this thing on top of it. It just kind of looks funny and it looks kind of out of place at a campground. So I don't use this a whole lot, but it is absolutely fantastic. And it does give good audio if you have the settings right on your camera, which I learned about 2 videos ago. I had the gain on my camera turned up to infinity and all of my audio was clipped. It turned out horrible, but that wasn't the fault of this microphone. And the thing I like about this microphone the most is that when you hook it up to your camera, it automatically turns on, so you don't forget to turn your microphone on. You wouldn't believe how many times I forgot to turn my microphone on and the clips were just wasted because there was no audio. So this is the second mic that I use sometimes. And then also in here are these little tripods, which are invaluable to me. This one is a newer, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's a metal little table tripod. And this is what I use inside of my truck when I put it on my cabinet. And it's just built like a tank and it'll hold anything you put on it. And this thing probably weighs as much as my camera, but these little mini tripods are great, and especially when doing like a time lapse down close to the water, looking up at the sunset, I'll put my GoPro on top of this if I'm not using one of these bigger tripods to kind of get that angle looking out at the water, real close to the water, looking up at the sunset. I'll use one of these little tripods. And this little guy is from Ulanzi, and this is what I put my GoPro on if I'm going to be walking with my GoPro. It's just easier than holding the actual GoPro. But it does extend a little bit, and it's got a couple of little feet on it that you can set up. It's not very sturdy. This is just a plasticky tripod type thing, but this is what I keep in the bag because A, it's super lightweight, it's super small, and it just gives me a little handle to put my GoPro on top of. But these 2 little tripods go with me everywhere because I use them all the time. And then the rest in here, I've got a little power bank for either my GoPro or my Canon to charge it up, and it's got a power delivery option. So most cameras now, the newer cameras, you have to use a power delivery USB Type-C to charge up the camera. So I just keep this in there in my bag at all times. And I got a little light for my GoPro, and this thing I think was around 15 bucks, I'm not sure. But it's just a little light that you can hook onto the, I guess I can call this a selfie stick, I don't know, a little tripod. But I've got a little light, and then I put my GoPro on top, and at night it does provide a pretty good little light when there's nothing out there and it's super dark. So I keep this tiny little light in my bag if I ever need it. I don't honestly use it a whole lot, but it doesn't take up any space. Let's see, what else do I have in here? I got a microfiber towel to wipe down the lenses, and that is it. Now, for all the drone shots, I have upgraded to a DJI Mini 3 Pro, which is right here. And I will tell you that this has been the absolute best drone that I've ever had. So I've had the Mavic, the Mini 2 non-Pro version, and now the Mini 3 Pro. And the reason I like this thing so much is A, it is whisper quiet. It has the lightest sound out of any drone that I've ever been around or that I've flown myself. And it's not obtrusive when you're out camping. I don't feel bad flying this thing around as opposed to when I was flying at my Mini 2, which sounds like a really high-pitched, just annoying that you can hear when it's 400 feet up in the air. This little guy has a much different lower frequency sound, and again, I don't feel bad flying this thing around. And this particular drone has the follow me function, whereas my Mini 2 does not have the follow me. And what that means is I can put this thing up in the air and I can use the remote controller and I can put a box around me through the camera and it'll follow me wherever I go. It'll do a fancy little circle around me. The Mini 2 does not do that. So that's why I switched to the Mini 3 Pro late last year, and it's been the best decision I've made in terms of my drone footage because it's just a fantastic drone. It's not cheap, but camera gear is not cheap, unfortunately. But it's been just a fantastic little drone for me for some of these videos, and I've gotten that thing to almost 12,000 feet away from me, and I've had full bars on my remote in terms of connection between my remote and the drone. And I don't get nervous flying it that far away because DJI makes very good drones and I trust it. And there was a time where I did lose connectivity and I thought I lost the drone, and within 5 minutes that thing was coming back to me on its own. And then once I got connection back, of course I could see the live video feed on my phone again and I could figure out where the drone was. But it was coming back to me if it received connection or not, because that's what they're programmed to do in the perfect world. But that's it. That's everything that I bring with me when I head out for these little camping trips that you see typically every week. I didn't post one last Thursday, but we had some school issues that we had to take care of, and so I didn't get to go do my trip on Thursday. But it doesn't take up a lot of space. I don't carry a whole huge backpack full of stuff. It's just fairly easy. Now, I could get away with probably minimizing this even more, but if I get out there, inevitably, I need it. If I left it at home, I need it, so I just try to keep all of this stuff with me, and so far it's worked out really, really well. Now, if you're wondering what I'm filming on right now, it is one of my Nikon D500 DSLRs that I don't take with me because the videography on it's terrible. But I do take this camera with me on some of my camping trips to do still photographies that I've never showed you folks. And I might start putting in some screenshots of pictures that I take while I'm out camping during the downtime, because it's not always fun. There's a lot of downtime in between these video shots on camping trips. So I'll take my big camera and I'll go look for what I think are decent shots, and I'll do some long exposure photography. I'll do astrophotography, try to get some star trails. But I haven't ever put those in a video, so I might start doing that. But that's the camera I'm filming on right now, is the D500. But gang, not to get long in the tooth, this is everything that I bring with me for my little video shoots, and I'll try to remember to put a link for everything in the description. I paid for all of this. None of this is a sponsored video. This is all my goods. But to help you out, I have gone through a bunch of stuff and figured out what works and what doesn't work, and especially these tripods. This Ulanzi tripod is been the best tripod I've ever had, and it's probably the cheapest tripod that I've ever bought. So I don't know how long it's going to last, but right now it's working great. But not to keep this video any longer, gang, this is everything that I take with me. So hopefully you enjoyed it and you found some information useful. And I'll be using this Thursday, so you can finally get to watch another camping video on Friday. So until then, guys, take care. Thanks for watching.